Okay, I am ready and welcome everyone to the 7 o'clock Littleton Board of Health meeting. This is a Zoom format meeting, and we are using the Zoom meeting to control the chat so that all participants and listeners may not be aware of comments being made because some meeting participants join by phone and do not see these conversations. Another concern is conversations between residents with the chat room, which are not incorporated into the public record. And because of that, we have ways for you to join the chat. So people that join the Zoom meeting are set so their microphones are muted. If you call in by phone, please use *6 to mute or unmute your phone so that the meeting can occur in an orderly fashion. We ask that people who join keep their microphones on mute so background noises do not interfere with the meeting. If you wish to participate, use the raise your hand function, and if you called in, you dial *9, and the meeting host will notify the chairperson of raised hands and will determine when and how you can comment. And then when called upon, you should unmute, state your name and address. And then when you're finished speaking, please go back on mute. Okay, so the first thing up on the agenda is the 295 Goldsmith Street, and that is Don Davis. So Don, would you please present your property?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I live on 295 Goldsmith, and we're proposing to build a new house. There you go. And what I'm looking for is a variance on the septic tank and leaching field location. It passes Title V conditions, and just the location of the proposed dwelling is closer than the setback that you guys are looking for, the 10 feet and 20 feet to the leaching field. Do I need to pull up the plot plan?
Yes, please.
Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
So this is the existing house, and the dark line is the proposed dwelling. Right here is our current septic tank location and pump chamber up to the D box and leaching bed. Where the current the proposed dwelling sits is 3 feet plus or minus. In all honesty, once it's been excavated and pinned, I believe it's going to be closer to 4 feet, maybe even more. He has a generous setting on this side here, 19 feet from my 18-foot setback. I can contemplate not doing a roof overhang, therefore I can shift that building that much more towards Long Lake to give me that more clearance to the tank.
Don, can you I'm sorry, I'm not, I think this is the property where there's an existing house and you're gonna raise it and build a new house, correct?
Correct. Yeah, existing house we're tearing down completely and building new.
With the existing septic system.
Right.
Okay. Okay, do you have any other comments that you want to tell us?
Nothing other than I have passing Title V requirements. And we're not increasing the usage of the new proposed dwelling. It is still going to be a 2-bedroom house. And I think that's it. If you guys have anything for me, let me know.
Okay, Jim Gareffi, can you give us your comments, please?
Sure. So Title V requires that you have a 10-foot offset from the septic tank and 20-foot offset from the leaching field to the foundation. And the current dwelling meets those requirements. There was an upgrade to that septic system installed a number of years ago, and they were able to meet those requirements. And so when we're installing something new, so we're building a new house, we're really not, the code doesn't allow us to just make something less compliant than it was before. And again, board certainly consider reasonable, if something's off a foot here or there, but this is less than half the distance that's required by the state code for that tank offset to the house. So I certainly can't recommend that to the board.
Okay. So he would have to relocate the tank?
Well, it's I don't know if changing the house in any way, moving the tank certainly would be, but you'd end up moving a tank and a pump chamber. Those are certainly options. As if you look at the plan of the proposed house, there's this line at 15 feet. The tanks could go as close as 10 feet to the property line, so you could gain some distance there, put the tank sideways if that were the case. So it's possible that they could fit between the house, the proposed house, and the property line.
I see. Okay. Kevin just said that he lost his Wi-Fi, so he will be back on in a minute. Any other comments from board members?
I have a couple. Don, are you the homeowner or the engineer?
I'm the homeowner.
Okay. So I was looking at this plan for your future proposed dwelling, and you said that is a two-bedroom septic system?
It is a two-bedroom septic.
So your plans show a huge second bedroom and a bonus room. So I'm wondering about room count too, guys. If room count, the system's going to have capacity for the bonus room, and then on top of what Jim said, the space. So, because the bonus room could, turn into a bedroom or something too. So,
Can you show us your house plans, please?
Yes.
So Lisa, it talks about an unfinished bonus space. So, I mean, I'm not sure what Mr. Davis's plans are for that, but we could certainly put that on a building permit that space can't be finished.
Okay. And that second bedroom is only one bedroom? Because it's front to back, it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, there's no real regulation on the size of bedrooms. What we do is we'd have them put these plans would be the ones that were signed and put in the file.
Okay. Don has a question.
Don?
Sorry. Yes, my intent for that bonus room, it's labeled bonus room on the plan per the architect. That is strictly storage for us. I don't have access from you can see on the screen here. I'm not putting access into here. That access will be from the garage only for storage.
So probably, can you make it unheated, or are you going to have it heated?
It's going to be unheated. Some people say to insulate it while I have the chance, but
yeah, that's different than heating it, though. So.
Okay. Lisa, do you have any other questions?
That was it. Just the room count, and what Jim said about the relocating those tanks, because it is kind of close. And if you ever thought about it, if you wanted to make that huge second bedroom 3 bedrooms, updating your system to a 3-bedroom might be something that you want to look into.
Yeah, the lots probably wouldn't support that because we wouldn't be able to put a reserve area in.
Okay. All right.
Yes, it's pretty much to the 2.
Okay.
I have a question. Do you have a butters?
yes, we have.
And has there been any contact between you and the abutters?
I've sent out the request notification required for the meeting, and I've talked to all of them, and none of them have any issues with it from a face-to-face chat.
Are there any abutters here on the meeting? Brian, can you tell me if anyone raises their hand?
I do not see any hands raised, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, so are we ready to make a motion? Oh, Dawn, sorry.
Can I just add one more thing?
Sure.
On the tank location, I know things are really tight on this lot. I am willing and even consider thought if it's possible, I can turn both of these tanks 90 degrees and pushing it to that 10 feet boundary this way, granting myself, it still will be less than 10 feet, but a lot bigger than the 3 as an option to help alleviate this.
Jim, what do you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, the plan I have is not to scale, so I can't really tell how much room is between the that foundation wall and the property corner. He's showing about 4 feet to the foundation, I guess, if you discount the overhang. The tanks are usually somewhere between 8 and 10 feet long. They're only 5 or 6 feet wide, so you gain a bunch of room doing that. And then it looks like you have that kind of dashed line as a 15-foot offset. So there may be just enough room to, if it was a foot off, to be able to get the 10 feet off the property line and 10 feet off the foundation. So it may be possible to get compliance or pretty darn close by turning the tanks and putting them like end to end.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to, given the problem with this and the location, I think it may be worthwhile if we got back to this and gave the owner a chance to, as it were, get himself organized so he can be in compliance, especially in this particular area.
Yeah, I mean, what might help is having the engineer who drew the plot plan just show the tanks in the location that would accommodate the foundation and the property line offsets in Title V. Then we would have we'd know that those could be installed, and I assume you're going to be doing some demo and cellar digging, cellar hole digging at the time, so that work could be done at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So you're thinking about maybe continuing it and having them come back with the tanks rotated?
So, Mike, is that a motion?
I make a motion.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mike, is that your
Yes,
motion?
so I'm just making a motion that that the applicant return. I was just going to suggest that we just continue the hearing until the next session, and with the understanding he's going to come back with everything in order.
Okay, can I have a second?
I give a second with the fact that he's going to come back and the engineer is going to show the design to comply and also make Jimmy a little happier.
Okay, so we'll do a roll call vote. Gino?
Yes.
Gino Fratelloni, yes. And Kevin is not back yet. Lisa?
Lisa Flanagan, yes.
Mike?
Mike Zeldin, yes.
And Louise Nichols, yes. So we will see you hopefully the next meeting, Dawn, okay?
Louise,
Yes.
if he's able to get it redesigned and it's in compliance, does he need to come back, or do you mind if I just sign it off?
May I say something, Jimmy? If you when you get the design and it comply your wishes, there is no need for him to come back.
Okay, Gino, thank you. I'm okay with that, Jim. Thank you.
Okay. All righty. Thanks.
Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you.
Bye, John.
Bye-bye.
Okay, it is 7:17 I have, so we can go on to the next property is 51 Goldsmith Street with Civil Solutions.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm Kirk Fitzpatrick with Civil Solutions, and I'm here on behalf of Ted Frederick for his property at 51 Goldsmith Street. And we zoom out a little bit so you can see the whole plan. Basically, we have proposed upgrade for the existing 3-bedroom house. The existing system failed a Title V inspection. Oh, sorry, I went the wrong way there. Right now, there's a small tank in the backyard with kind of an overflow trench off to the side here. The slope of the property is about elevation 97 at the back of the house. That's all relative to the bottom of the clapboards being 100. And then it slopes off to the rear and to the right of the property. So we did 2 test holes in the lower area of the backyard, test holes 1 and 2. This property has a very high water table. We had an estimated seasonal high water table of 18 inches in test hole 1 and 20 inches in test hole 2 with an observed water table of 2 feet. We were not able to run the percolation test. We took a soil sample, a sieve analysis done, and that came back as a class 2 sandy loam. What we're proposing to do is to raise the plumbing coming out of the house. That's going to come out and feed a new 1,500-gallon 2-compartment tank. And that's going to feed a leaching field composed of the Presby and Varro septic that's 15.5 feet wide by 42 feet long. That's based on it being a class 2 soil and is equivalent to a percolation rate of 30 minutes an inch. So we designed it with actually a sloping Presby, just because the backyard does slope off to try to minimize the amount of fill and keep the fill away from the lot lines as much as possible. With that being said, it still does require fill within 10 feet of a lot line, so it needs a variance from your local regulation 27. The Presby is designed with a 2-foot reduction, the offset to the water table, so it goes from 4 feet to 2 feet, and the house is serviced by town water that comes in the front. So basically, we're asking for the approval of the groundwater offset from 4 feet to 2 feet, use of the sieve analysis where percolation tests could not be run, and fill within 10 feet of a property line. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, does anyone have a question for Kirk?
It's 3 bedrooms and your existing 3 bedrooms, and it's still going to be nothing's changing, right? With the bed.
That's correct. There's
Okay.
no alterations proposed to the house.
Kirk, I don't see the dimension, but how close is it within 10 feet of the lot line?
It's about 6 feet off the toe of the slopes. Actually, probably about 5 feet here, maybe 6 feet in the back. We tried to center the balance, the offset between the two. It's basically where the groundwater or the surface water flows in that direction now. It's going to continue to move in that same direction.
Are there any abutters here for this property? Brian, can you ask if anybody has their hand raised? Or see if anyone has their hand raised?
Madam Chair, I do not see anyone with their hand raised.
Okay.
Can I ask another question, please?
Sure, Lisa.
Kirk, what about rotating the leach field to give it a little bit more space on either side? Is that just the way the slope is, and that's because of the
So
Presby?
it's situated at that angle to follow the property. So that correct. So if you rotate it to be more parallel to the back of the house, the elevation of the system is actually going to come up, and you're actually going to increase the amount of fill on this side. And then it actually won't make it by gravity. It just barely makes it by gravity with this layout and with the 2-foot offset. That's why it's at that kind of a funny angle.
Jim, can you give us your comments, please?
Sure. So Goldsmith Street's kind of tough. The soil's not very good, and the water table is generally pretty high. I think our water table out here was 18 inches below grade. It is kind of a compromise to try to get it on the right contour so that your grading will finish before the lot lines. And certainly that 2-foot reduction saves you about 6 feet of fill headed towards the lot line. So if it was at the 4 feet, you'd be probably at the lot line with the fill on both sides. So that variance does help trying to minimize that slope. But at some point we need to have some fill on that side and just to meet the breakout requirements for the system as designed. So I think it's a reasonable compromise based on the site that you have to work with.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone?
I think it'd be I'd like to make a motion to accommodate for the 2 feet on the 51 Goldsmith Street.
Well, there are other variances also, Gina.
I mean, I only saw here one. Okay, let's see what the other one.
Sorry, I missed it. Is it a full basement?
We didn't ask that.
It is a full basement.
You can't push that tank a little further.
No.
Your question, Kevin?
I was just wondering if you could push the tank a little bit further so you get the 20 feet.
The tank only has to actually be 10 feet off the foundation.
Right.
No
Okay.
variance associated with the tank.
There's-
Could I ask a question of Jim? Jim, what's the risk here, given the terrain and the soil and the water table?
So
You know-
I think the issue at hand is trying to minimize the fill to the lot line.
Yeah,
Again, the board's really tried hard to make sure you're not impacting other abutters to these properties. So, I mean, you have 10 feet. This slopes to that, kind of the way it's cockeyed to the corner of the lot line. The slope is to that corner, so it gives it the maximum amount of air to flow on the site before it leaves the site. Even around the two edges where it's close, you could probably swale that to make sure it doesn't go directly over the line, that it kind of goes down to the bottom of the system first. If you wanted to, we've been using on some of these sites kind of like that little stone trench in the yard to try to catch water. That might be okay here, except that the water table's so high, it's like at 18 inches. You start digging into the ground, and that little trench may be wet in the springtime. So,
Right.
again, it's not the best situation, but I think it's the best that we can do on this site.
so you're saying the risk either to the the property owner and his property and the abutters is not great? Is that what you're saying?
I would say it's minimal. I mean, by the time you're getting fill close to the lot line, that fill that's within 6 or 7 feet is only about a foot higher than it normally would be. So it's
Okay.
not like a big, huge. It's sloping off by the time you're getting to the edge of the property lines there.
Okay.
So I think with a little bit of site work, they could kind of make sure that water doesn't go across the lot line first, that it kind of goes to the big triangular area below the system.
Right. Do you have a specific recommendation on how that can be achieved?
Again, when they get on the site, what they'll need to do is that toe of the slope, that little bit of fill right at the end of the slope. They'll just need to make kind of swell that around so it comes towards that triangular piece.
Okay.
It probably doesn't take a lot to do that because it's reasonably flat out there. It's a pretty gradual slope.
Okay. So I just suggest that we put that in, and assuming others are ready to consider this as an okay situation, to include Jim's recommendation on how the risk can be reduced, given the fact we're that close to the property, to the line.
Do
you wanna make a-
agree to that? We'll make sure that when it gets graded, that water is still directed towards the corner, the back corner.
And I'll put a note to that effect on the permit.
Great. Does someone want to make a motion? Are we?
Make a motion. My motion still stand. My motion is to allow for the variance on 51 Goldsmith Street.
Okay, was
And
someone
according-
second?
With the proviso, sorry, we have to add that for the proviso that the the mitigation required is included as a requirement for the permit. The mitigation that Jim has outlined.
Jim
Okay.
will look. Yeah, Jim will look at it.
No, I want it specifically as a condition for our vote here.
Yes, that's fine. Will someone second that, please?
Second.
Okay, we'll go through the roll call. Gino
have to,
Fratelloni?
Do we-
Yes,
Do we have to mention all the variances, though?
there's only two of them.
There's three.
There's three.
Okay, what's the other one then? Not very, very good. Let's see what happened with the third one.
So we're asking for reduction in the groundwater offset from 4 feet to 2 feet with the use of the Presby. We're asking for use of the
Right.
particle size analysis where percolation tests couldn't be run on site. And we're asking for fill within 10 feet of a property line. So it's a variance from Littleton Board of Health Regulation 27. Those are the three variances.
Okay.
Thank you, Kirk. Okay. So does,
So I'll make a motion to accept all three of the variances with the stipulation that Mike said about, is it a swale at the corner that he wanted?
Yeah, we'd swale on both sides of the property, so it goes to the triangular portion.
It's a very flat area.
okay.
I second.
Okay, so let's do the roll call, please. Gino Fratelloni,
Yes.
Kevin Baker,
Kevin Baker, yes.
Lisa,
Lisa Flanagan, yes.
Mike Zeldin,
Mike Zeldin, yes?
and Louise Nichols, yes. Okay, thanks, Kirk.
Great, thank you. Have a
Thanks,
good
sir.
night. You're welcome.
7:28, so 7:20 is 123 Spectacle Pond Road, Brian Badger.
Good evening. This is Steve Sears from David Ross Associates, and I'm here on behalf of Ed Williams. And he has an existing house at 123 Spectacle Pond Road, which is in failure. We've designed a replacement system for the failing system, and we're asking for one local upgrade approval. It's the sieve analysis for the percolation test due to the high groundwater. Other than that, the plan meets all your regulations and all the Title V regulations.
Can you please share your screen and show us your plan?
Okay. I hate it.
Well, I actually emailed the plans to you folks. We're not set up for to show you.
You don't-
the thing.
Okay.
Oh, I thought you might have it.
When you say you're not, I'm sorry, when you say you're not set up to do it, you mean you don't know how, or you don't have access to the document?
Well, I have the document right here.
So it's not in PDF format on your computer, is that correct?
Correct.
And how did you email it then?
We emailed it to Janet. She asked for her electronic copy, so we did that a couple weeks ago.
So
Yes, I asked you to be able to share the screen, and I spoke with Brian Badger as well.
Okay. Share the screen, with the plan? I thought you meant when we came on the Zoom.
Would you like to share my screen with the plan so everyone can see it?
Yeah,
Thank you, Kevin.
we don't have access for that.
Kevin's going to do it.
If this helps you.
Let me just get
Does
it.
that help?
no,
That's okay. We've got,
No,
Kevin's got it.
Okay. Well, again, there's no variances required or regarding the plan design. It's just the sieve analysis because it was too wet. And if Jim has reviewed the plan, maybe he can put his input into it.
What would the sieve come back at?
here we go.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
No problem.
This is why I wanted you to see the actual plan.
Oh,
There you go.
did that. So 30 minutes per inch.
What was the groundwater?
Boy, boy.
Groundwater is coming into the perk hole at about 40 inches.
Crazy. I live around the corner. My groundwater was like 12 feet.
This
Well-
house isn't on the good side of Spectacle Pond.
I guess not.
Thank you, Jim.
The good side.
Soil-wise, anyway.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there it is. Jim, do you want to give us your comments now that we have a nice picture?
Sure. So the plan otherwise complies with Title V. Unfortunately, given the time of year we're doing the testing and given the failed nature of the system and the need to get it fixed, We went out there to the soil testing hoping that we could do a perk, but because the water table's so high, we couldn't. That 30-minute inch is kind of the default for, kind of the worst soil when you submit it. And so the system's probably over-designed based on the soil we saw, but that's the process in place. So I don't really have a problem with that percolation rate for that soil. I think it's probably over-designed.
Okay, any
Great.
comments?
No changes in capacity and room counts or anything like that? They're building it for, how many bedrooms in the house?
It's an existing 4-bedroom house, and I believe that's what the system is designed for.
Yeah.
What is this, a conventional?
It's stone and pipe.
Yeah.
Why don't you do a Presby and make it level?
Because the Presby is an alternative technology, and we're supposed to go with the maximum feasible compliance. We have plenty of room here to do with stone and pipe, so Presby doesn't really come into play.
Yeah, but then you get the treatment. And if the groundwater is that high, it would be nice to have it.
We've got a 4-foot groundwater offset on the plan. Presby says you can go 2 feet, so I think the 4 feet's probably better than a 2 feet offset.
Yeah, but if you get the treatment.
Yeah, so close to the lake with all its problems that it's been having too.
This is actually a few miles from the lake. It's on the other side of the road. It's nowhere near the lake. It's on Spectacle Pond Road, but it's almost over by Green Needles Way, that end of town.
Green Needles? Nah, you're all wrong.
Not Green Needles. Spartan Arrow, maybe? Jim,
Close.
help me out.
Close.
Barton Arrows would be in the back of this lot up and over the hill.
Yeah.
Cricket Lane.
And again, we're only asking for that one local upgrade, the sieve analysis. Other than that, the plan meets Title V, and the plan meets the Littleton regulations.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
No comment.
Butters?
Are there any abutters here, Brian?
I do not see any hands raised. If anyone wishes to speak, they can raise their hand. There are no hand raised, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, someone want to make a motion?
Nobody.
I mean, I'd like to see a Presby in a better design. That's all.
I know, you like the Presby. You like the Presby. Okay, I tell you what, I'm making the motion for, and grant them that variance.
Gina, we need a more complete
Well,
motion, please.
motion to 122 Spectacle Pond Road. One variance that he needs, I'll give him the okay.
So we're asking for a motion for 123 Spectacle Pond Road with a variance of a civil analysis in lieu of a perk test.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. It'll do a roll call. Gino Fratelloni,
Yes.
Kevin Baker,
Kevin Baker, no.
Lisa Flanagan,
Lisa Flanagan, yes.
Mike Zeldin,
Mike Zeldin, yes.
and Louise Nichols, yes. Okay, thank you very much,
They should
Steve.
have their well tested too, by the way.
What kind of water they have?
It's well.
They have a well?
They
Well,
do.
the well's on the other side of the garage, over about probably 125 feet from the system.
I figure that, yeah.
So with the private well, Steve, it wouldn't be a bad idea for them to test that too.
For
Well, I think
sure.
Neshoba probably requires that anyways.
That's for PFAS.
Definitely.
Not to be safe.
Jim, did you want to say something?
No, I'm all set. Like I say, it complies with everything, but except for the sieve analysis. So.
Okay. Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you, Steve.
Okay.
All right, next up is
Three-seater
three-seater
variance request.
with Ted Doucette.
All right, where is it? Ted Doucette. Let me see. Ted Doucette.
There he is.
Yeah, sorry, am I on audio? Yeah, okay. So, no, sorry, I thought the host, I couldn't get my video going before, so I thought the host was gonna make it set up. Anyway, all right, so here we are. First, can I just start real quick? I just want to apologize to the board. Last time I was at one of these meetings, you guys were discussing something and I jumped in and I was talking about something when someone was asking about, the board's authority. Some of you know I was on this board a long time ago, and people were asking us to do things out of our authority. Other boards, other things were trying to push us around. I'm kind of sensitive to that. So when it came up, I jumped in. I apologize for overstepping my bounds. So for three-seater, this is something I sent to Jim. I wasn't expecting hearing, but I guess it's fine to get it all out and get on the record. But there's currently two lots, one at 43 Lakeshore and one at three-seater, and they're owned by the same person, 43 Lakeshore, the owner of 43 Lakeshore bought three-seater, and they've been talking about a few different ideas to combine the lots or develop the lots. But anyway, the latest one is to construct an addition over the lot line and have a total bedroom count of 7. When I researched the files, it shows that the existing home at 43 Lakeshore is a 3-bedroom capacity. So we're hoping to hook up, just put all the design flow from the combined structure into that one system. So it'll be no less than 7 rooms. I mean, no more than 7 rooms, which would meet Title V for a 3-bedroom.
Can you share your screen, Ted, so we can see?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're how to do that. Okay. Yeah.
How many bedrooms did you say, Ted? 7? Or
No,
7 rooms?
I
7
think he
rooms.
meant
Sorry.
rooms.
Sorry. So let me see. Let me just try to remember which file is which. All right. So this is the existing plan that was sent to me by staff, which I appreciate very much. So it's kind of cut off over here, but it does say, it's a 3-bedroom design right in here. And then, come on, this thing is, hold on a second, the little menu, the little zoom menu at the top keeps dropping down and I can't select my plans.
You can hide that.
Can I?
Yeah.
I don't have the capability. I'm not set up for that.
No,
I'm just kidding.
there's
I'm
a
kidding.
little, okay.
Now, by the way, Kevin, I
Don't
do.
be mean, Ted, don't be mean.
No, I know. No, but Kevin, no, I'm not going to be mean. Kevin, you and I know we've disagreed before, but I think you had a brilliant idea on there that would have worked on that site. But anyway, you can see here is 43 Lakeshore, and if you look right here, you can see the existing house that's been condemned.
Can you zoom in? Is that too much to ask?
No. Anything.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. So here's the here's the lot line going down the middle right here, and then it cuts over like this. So there's an existing house. I was in for this one a little while ago. The original plan, there was another plan to put a house here and a septic system up here, but they've changed their mind again. So here's what the site plan looks like. Existing house here, and then the addition is all this in dark here. And here is the floor plan. So you still have one room here. This is a screen porch here. So you have this. You have one, 2, 3 bedrooms, and then this.
Plus the new master.
Yeah, master. Wait a minute. What's he?
Yeah, that's 4 bedrooms.
4 bedroom.
Yeah. All right. I'm sorry. I must be looking at the wrong plan, but
And a boat.
yeah. Well, yeah. The boat doesn't use a lot of bathroom, a lot of water. But I guess what we're here for. I'm sorry if I pulled up the wrong plan. I have so many files, so many plans in this file. If we, obviously, if we can get approved that the existing septic system will support 7 rooms, we can get that in the record tonight. We would be able to then submit a floor plan with the application that shows it's only 7 rooms. So I guess what I'm just asking for asking to confirmation that this lot is a 3-bedroom design and can handle up to 7 rooms, the combined lot.
This
Jim,
4 bedrooms, so.
What does public record say? Do you know?
So the septic system plan that was designed for that was for a 3-bedroom house. It was installed in 1999, and the system before that, I think, was. Let's see if I have those records.
Well, that's an old one, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, the permit's kind of faded. The system that replaced was back from 1970. And I can't really see what the permit number, so I have to check the records back in the office. So it was the current system is a 3-bedroom system and it was designed for the existing dwelling at that time.
So I'm a little confused here. You're saying that the plan you're showing us, the update, does not show the actual floor plan of the house that's planned for this lot.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. I have it somewhere. I'm sorry, when I was shuffling plans and trying to get them all saved up here and ready to go.
Yeah.
But, I think the decision would be, if the decision's in the record, then Jim would have guidance that if we submit a floor plan that meets a 3-bedroom design, then he'd be able to approve it.
You're not doing a new system. You want to get the approval for the house plan.
Correct.
Did it pass Title 5?
Well, we haven't gone that far yet. I'm sure we'll have to do that. I mean, we're expecting that to be a condition.
Yeah, I mean, I'd make a motion. You want to hear Jim's comments, or?
yeah, let's let Jim continue, please. Thank you.
Sure. So just to kind of give you what the practice has been, when we've had lots that have a certain size septic system and somebody wants to, kind of like the first one we did tonight, as long as we stick within the capacity of the approved system that's on the site, and they stick within the room and bedroom counts of the house, we haven't had an issue with signing off on building permits. So, I have a plan that looks like it's a 3-bedroom, but the way Title V works is in that bedroom definition, it says that minimum systems are supposed to be 3 bedrooms, and then in houses that have more than 8 rooms, and so we usually use 8 as the maximum number of rooms you can have in a 3-bedroom house, because that's the way the code is written. Because when you get to more than 8 rooms, the way you determine number of bedrooms is to add up all the rooms in the house, divide by 2, and round down. So, the request, if it's truly going to be 7 rooms, 3 bedrooms, I think that would compliance-wise would be fine for this site.
All right, Jim, you just schooled me. So it's eight rooms total, because I forgot about the round down. So Ted,
it killed me to say that, because I thought I had you at 7. So.
So I guess, I'm looking for Title V, capacity. So yeah, it's so if I guess that's what we're asking then is like whatever we want to we'd like a recorded decision of what the capacity of that system is.
According to the permit for the septic system, it says 3 bedrooms. So.
Right, and up to 8 rooms.
That's how I've interpreted the bedroom section of Title V.
And you know how often I argue with you? It's hardly ever.
Regularly. Oh, is this being recorded? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Jim and I have some long perk tests where we just go.
I was thinking I was thinking of making sure the boat is purchased as part of the construction. To foreclose any
I want to ride on the boat.
No, I just, we got to be careful here. Make sure that nothing can go in there except the boat. No closets, no bedrooms, no overnights.
Yeah.
Just the boat.
Yeah, no Airbnb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
And by the way, you can't be using it as a quarantine site either.
Okay, any other comments or questions for Ted or Jim?
Room, give do say little problem. If it's an 8 room, give them a restriction. Only the boat can be in there. Right, Ted?
Sure thing, Gino. Whatever you say.
I have a question for maybe Jim or Ted. So if existing building is condemned, why is the septic system, is the septic system still okay?
So the septic system on 3 Cedar was condemned, but 43 Lakeshore is okay, and that's the one that's on the existing, is on the livable house. So the condemned lot is 3 Cedar. And it was condemned, I believe,
So
Jim,
the
right,
house
because of the
and-
septics. I believe the house was condemned because the septic system wasn't functioning.
Okay.
That
So-
3 Cedar is a small lot that's just above this 43 Lakeshore, and that had a system that, I don't know that we ever got a Title V inspection, but based on the water table, certainly it would be in failure. I'm not sure if the house was ever condemned, but if I understand Ted correctly, they're going to take that parcel and combine the two, tear that house down, and put this addition on, because this addition will probably be in part of the space where the existing house is.
So Ted has to build, you're using an existing septic system and you're just adding to the house?
Correct.
Okay.
And yeah.
But
We
the
were
septic
looking at
system-
some other options. It's funny, the homeowner was told that when they put on that screen porch, they were told that if somebody told them that they didn't have capacity for that it couldn't be a room. And then we go back now and we see that it's 3 bedrooms. So we kind of had other plans that Jim and I discussed, and we fell back to this because it seemed to be one that would work for everybody.
But this
Well,
plan
this
is
plan
for-
is 4 bedrooms.
Right. This plan, yes, I will submit that plan as soon as I can. I think, like I said, if the motion says that we're looking for the determination that this is a lot, when we combine the 2 lots, we can put an 8-room house on there with no more than 3 bedrooms. That's what we look for.
That's good.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Are there any abutters in the chat room or participants, Brian?
Madam Chair, I see no hands raised.
Okay. All right, anyone want to make the motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the use of the current septic system as long as it passes the Title V with a 3-bedroom design.
3 Cedar. It's on 3 Cedars. Okay. I second.
Okay.
Is that
Gino?
what Ted wants though? I mean, or do you want a 4-bedroom?
3-bedroom capacity, total of 8 rooms, which they go hand in hand in Title V.
And do we need a deed restriction on that, Jim?
Yeah, it would not at that point, no.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second, so we will do the roll call. Gino,
Yes. 3 Cedar.
can you say your name and your vote,
I
please?
say yes, Gino.
Kevin?
Kevin Baker, yes.
Lisa?
Lisa Flanagan, yes.
Mike?
Mike Selden, yes.
And Louise Nichols, yes. Thanks, Ted. Where'd you go?
He's coming up in. He's got another one.
Oh,
He's got Crestview too.
Yeah, sorry,
Okay.
I thought that, I didn't know if anyone was being blinded by the reflection of the light off my head. So,
okay. Next up, 740. Yep, 11 Crestview Road.
okay. So this is a lot that is currently in common ownership with, oh, I should share screen again. Hold on, I gotta get to the share screen now. And he is, hold on, why am I not sharing screen? Hold on. All right. So this is 2 lots in common ownership, and this is, so here is what we're referring to. On this side is 11, which has an existing building on it. I just want to show you 11A, what we're doing here. Here's an existing lot line, and here's a septic system right here for 11 for this house over here, and this is the reserve area for this house over here. So if we want to build this house here, we have to do something about the septic system because it crosses the lot line. So this is, I believe, should be ready to approve. Jim sent me some comments, and it's ready to, it should be ready to go. So it's just a house, existing garage, and a large septic system here. So now I'm going to switch over to this lot here on the corner of Crestview. So this is the lot we were just looking at right here, the approximate septic system there. So this is an existing 3-bedroom, and It, like I said, we're relocating the system to be over here. It is a bit of a slope, and the groundwater was a little bit of an issue, so we are going to use Presby here because it'll work on the slope, and it lowers the groundwater reduction requirement, and it provides additional treatment. So it's a good tool to use in this case. The building sewer is low on this one, so unfortunately we're going to have to install a pump chamber. And since we're doing all this work and it's an older system, we thought it was prudent to just start with a new septic tank and everything. So we have septic tank, pump chamber, Presby system. The grading is not going to change a lot. There's some spot grades here just to help out the contractor, but pretty much the grading is going to stay the same. We have water line right here. That offset is shown right here. This arc here is a 20-foot offset to make sure the system is 20 feet away. This is a 10-foot offset for the tank, and this is a 10-foot offset from the property line. And I do have a certified property line because we had to have it for the other lot. So we have a certified property line by a land surveyor. The only issue we're having with this is the groundwater offset. So we are requesting a groundwater offset from 4 feet to not less than 2 feet, and we're going to have about 2.4 feet of groundwater offset. And I'm sorry, this is all, I think you guys probably are familiar. This is all approved. This is all in accordance with the Presby IA approval letter.
So it's going to be a Presby.
So, Ted, the system on the other lot, there's no variances for that?
Right, new construction, you can't have variances, so, right.
Okay, all right. Does anyone have any other questions for Ted?
What was groundwater?
30 inches.
No, it wasn't
60 inches.
60. Yeah, right. Good, Jim, thank you.
How did it perk?
This lot perked actually pretty well. It perked, well,
8
no.
minutes an inch.
Yeah, 8.
Not too fast for that reduction in the groundwater offset, Jim?
It is not. So 2 minutes an inch is kind of that cutoff.
Jim, do you want to give us your comments, please?
Sure. So, in developing the other lot and making sure that they have all the system components on this lot here, you can see in Ted still has his plan up there. You can see we had a couple of test holes out in the backside of the house there. You can also see the 100-foot buffer line and the 50-foot no dig. We probably wouldn't have been able to get a system in there and stay out of that no dig zone given the water table. And there was a bit more fill over there, and the fill, as I recall, wasn't very good. So I think the site we have is probably the best site for the replacement of that system. The other nice thing about this neighborhood, it's town water.
I was just going to ask
I think it's a reasonable request.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Ted or Jim?
The best he can do. I'll make a motion to accept.
Hold on, Gino. Brian, are there any abutters that have a question?
Madam Chair, I do not see any hands raised.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, the motion stand. Motion to grant the variance from 4 to 2, okay? And seemed like everything's okay. Jim agreed to it, and the engineer has a good eye on it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so let's do our roll call vote. Gino Fratelloni,
Gino, yes.
Kevin
Yeah.
Baker,
And Baker, yes.
Lisa,
Flanagan, yes.
Mike Zeldin,
Mike Zeldin, yes?
and Louise Nichols, yes.
Okay, thank you all for your time. Hopefully next time we'll all be in person.
That'd be
Don't
great.
no trouble.
Oh, no, all right, Jim, I'll get that plan over to you too. Thanks.
Thanks, Ted.
Take it easy. Oh, baby. Now.
Okay, we have a
Discussion.
lot of,
Discussion.
we have a lot to talk about tonight.
Oh, yeah.
The first thing is, that Janet has on here is evening meeting time and day change.
Let's not jump the gun.
What do you mean?
Let's wait until after the 20th.
Well, I would like to,
Or
I'm wondering if we can do the Wednesday meetings at night
what?
because I can't keep doing it at work. So I was
Oh, the
wondering if we,
Wednesday, the COVID meetings? Yeah.
yeah, would that be possible to move it till Wednesday nights at 7?
For me, it is, yeah.
Every week?
I'm okay with it.
Kevin, what did you say?
Is that every other week though?
Right.
Do you want to make sure Scott's available?
Scott.
Well,
Jim.
Janet had a good idea that she could get his input. He could come if he's available, or we could get his input and he could email us.
Yeah, like when Jim wasn't available, he used to send us his comments.
The difficulty with that scheme, I'm sorry, this is Mike. The difficulty with that scheme is that when questions arise, both in the case of Scott and Jim, they both have experience and expertise that often leads to further insight. And I'm not sure we can anticipate emails since they're static. Once we put our questions in, it's not interactive, which is the whole idea of having them present.
I agree with that.
Good point.
I agree.
So I'm not, I mean, I'm glad you agree. I just find the whole idea is if we can't be there in person, I'd like to, find a way for all of us to be together, accommodate people who have, thank God, their jobs back during the day.
Yep.
And if I have enough advance warning, I can at least put aside an hour and 15 minutes to make sure I'm available. Maybe we can get a longer break from other things.
But we had moved it to 1 o'clock, which can be, my lunchtime, and I think it was Lisa's lunchtime also.
Yeah, but if nighttime's better, we'll just figure out when Scott can make it and try and.
There's an application that's used by MPIC in the planning board. It's called Doodle. Marin knows about it, Janet, and we could distribute it to the gang, all the participants or people we'd like to see who are going to be present.
So Parks and Rec use to coordinate the.
And then it's easier for Janet to coordinate and take a look at the matrix so she can see right away who can make it when. Because Scott's not here. Jim probably wants to go off and do something more exciting.
Then a Zoom meeting? Come on.
What's the matter? Don't you like water?
A Littleton Zoom meeting, Jim. Come on.
My second one today.
That's all, Jim? Just your second?
Just the second.
Okay, so I kind of think it sounds like we should keep it at 1 o'clock. On Wednesdays.
No. All I'm
No, it's a good point, Mike. It's a good point.
No. All I'm thinking is maybe Jim and Scott and everyone can agree on a nighttime period, or a different day, a different night. And all I'm suggesting is maybe we should poll the group conveniently. Maybe I'm missing your point. So
Okay. All right. So Jim, Tuesdays nights is bad for you, anyways, right?
Yeah, I mean, the reason I've been available is Scouts hasn't been, so we haven't met.
Yeah, right.
So, and Wednesday night, I have Boxborough Board of Health meeting, usually the second Wednesday, but other than that, Wednesdays aren't bad.
Only one.
Yeah, they
week?
meet once a month. Yep.
Okay. We could move Tuesday, our regular meeting, to Wednesdays and just do everything on a Wednesday night.
That's what I was going to wonder. Is it too much to do COVID and our regular every Wednesday and then alternating Wednesday?
Pretty efficient on the Zoom, bang them out. I think we can get through everything.
Yeah, I mean, right now the big thing is the reopening plans and that, and making sure everybody's kind of understanding what's happening. So it's less crisis, more explanation, I think, so.
So you think it'll be all right? Janet, maybe you could get in touch with Scott tomorrow and see what his availability is.
Yes, okay.
Thank you. All right, next up is Camp T. I'm sure John Convangen would like to talk about that. John, do you want to unmute?
I think John's got a PowerPoint.
I don't.
All afternoon, John.
I'll have to, yeah, well, I completed the, well, at least I think I've completed the policies and procedures with the new COVID-19 regs that we got last Monday. I sent them off to Jim. So, Jim, happy reading. If you could sort of want
I was going to say, I was lacking stuff to read, John. Thank you.
10 pages of fun stuff. No, I just, I guess I'm gonna let Jim lead the way here because I'm not sure what he's asking. I'm not part of these meetings most of the time, but Kevin did get to listen to me drone on and on and on about camp and how it's going to look. So I'd be happy to do the same thing again. But like I said, I've been working with Jim on these guidelines for clarification and how he anticipates, how we need to meet those, given a, sort of a common practice for camp under COVID-19 in this world that we live in right now. So, you guys tell me what you need from me, and I'll be happy to, chime in with anything you'd like to hear.
I wish we had your explanation recorded and available this afternoon.
It's recorded right here every time.
Hit play.
No, so I guess, we're looking, I know Jim and I were talking about, if, we work together, given this, we've gotten the guidelines, do we need to go to a vote for you guys to approve our being able to run camp? But, in the end, what would you like for me to do here? I can walk you through a day of camp and what it's going to look like given the new guidelines. And then you guys can ask me any questions I knew I missed things earlier today. So, going through the guidelines with a fine tooth comb is, always shines light on something new every time you look at it. But you tell me what you want. Kevin, maybe, you saw earlier. I don't know if you want me to just give that same.
I think that's a great outline, a great place to start, and that'll help stimulate some questions from the board, and then I'm sure you can answer them.
Sure. Yeah. So Camp Tahadawan is a day camp. It's over at the Shaker Lane School. For those that don't know, I'm sure you guys do, but we normally run an 8:30 to 3:30 program. We normally have a before and after care program. We operate in large groups and we're always together, but this year it's going to be different. So I will just walk you through, so if you don't know what campus look like, I will walk you through how it looks now and how it's going to look this summer. So we're looking to start camp on June 29th and run through August 14th. We'll still be at Shaker Lane. The school department has given us the same sort of spaces as we've had in the past, and that's 4 classrooms, the cafeteria, the gymnasium, the staff room. We have access to 3 restrooms inside the building, including the staff restroom. And we're going to have some groups outside just to make some room for our groups of 10 and including staff up to 12. So we are going to have a drop-off staggered time. Normally, parents walk their child into camp and drop their child off with us and sign a paper that says they're there. This year will be like a rolling drop-off where parents, and I have a map. I submitted that it's not an official submission until we've sort of bounced it back and forth, but there'll be a map. Parents will drive in from Goldsmith through the parking lot and front, and there'll be 2 access points, the first grade wing and either the main lobby or the gymnasium. We're not sure. I'm still working with the school department on that. The parents will be staggered with times. We're going to have the drop off last a whole hour. And you'll be assigned a time to drop your child off. Parents won't be needing to wear masks, as will the child. There's a daily attestation written document that we're going to send to parents for them to print, and it's sort of a checklist of symptoms that's required in the guidelines. So they would have to go through. They would have to temperature check their child. They would have to look and for symptoms. Of course, your children. It's probably an easy thing for them to do. All the COVID-19 symptoms that have sort of been around. There were some changes to the guidelines that came out over the weekend that eliminated some of those, like abdominal pain was on there, but now it's not. They would give their child this piece of paper with their signature. They would walk up to the camp. We hired a nurse this year. That's something we haven't had in quite some time at Camp T. We felt it was, definitely important to have this year, given, have a professional on staff. So we have a registered nurse. Her name's Sarah Miller. She'll be working for us this summer. She's going to be at one location. I will be at the other. I will be a healthcare supervisor. That's just a designation in the guidelines. And we will do a visual check as well. We will do, they will be in full PPE as well. And they will, one of the checklists I added to the thing was that the parents would have them wash their hands before they left. There's lots of hand washing in the guidelines, so we're trying to make it a little bit more streamlined. And then they would come through. They would be allowed to enter the premises at the point of the review. Kevin had mentioned earlier today, that they removed temperature checks from the guidelines, and Jim and I talked about that a little bit. I'm sure Jim will chime in about that, but we would take a temporal check upon arrival for staff and children. The staff would be under the same, they would have to go through the same written attestation, written document signing off that they haven't been exposed to anybody with COVID-19 knowingly, and all the symptoms as well. And they would report to their groups. And in the groups, all the children are going to be in groups of 10 with staff, and they're going to be assigned to a designated area. That designated area will be either the classroom. We're going to have 4 classrooms. We're going to have 2 groups in the gymnasium. In the cafeteria. Cafeteria is big enough to do that. And then if we are over 60 kids for registrations, we'll have kids in tents out on Shaker Lane Field, and they will report out to their staff members there. The staff will stay with the group for the entirety of the day. There'll be a grid on either the field out there where the tents are or in the classroom. It's a 42 square foot, which is the minimum allowance for social distancing and physical distancing in the guidelines. Once the children are in their grid, they will bring in all their stuff, and they will be in their spot, and they will be able to remove masks as long as they're not within 6 feet of each other. Any time that they are within 6 feet of each other, they will be required to wear a mask. The day will be broken up into 1-hour blocks. They will be doing things like art, science, technology, which was new last year for camp, sports, which will be more, that would be like a change of location where they'll go out to the fields. Unless it's raining, then they'll go to the gymnasium. The gymnasium will be empty unless we need it for sports on inclement weather days. And we'll have, and we'll also have music as one of our activities. So kids will be in their classrooms. They will have their activities in front of them for the day with their staff members, and they will, they'll have, like I said, 1-hour blocks. They'll have a half-hour lunch, and then there'll be at 3:30, at 2:30 that they'll have a time to prep to leave, because it's the pickup is in reverse order of how the drop-off went. They'll sort of help organize their room, put all their things together for their, they'll be summoned by radio as the parents pull up, and they'll have signs in their window that say who they're here for. It's strongly recommended that we have the parent, the same person, caregiver, parent, do the pickup as the drop-off. Otherwise, they'll be showing a photo ID. So we're not just going to let kids get into a car. And we have, in our normal guidelines, we have lists of people that are approved to pick them up, the children, and or verifying that it's one of the 2 parents if we don't recognize them by sight. We all know a lot of the people that come in and out of camp, so it becomes easier, especially as time goes on. But making sure they get to the right place is important. The nurses station is going to be on the stage at the cafeteria, and that will be like set up with our normal nurses station, which is usually in the loading dock area. And she'll have supplies that she's in charge of, and if something happens with a COVID-19 exposure, or before they get there, we should know about exposures. But if someone becomes symptomatic throughout the day, then we've been given since the meeting this morning or this afternoon with Kevin and the working group, we have the staff room will become the isolation area, as we normally have our staff when they come in every day. They report to the staff room. They kind of gather, and then they go off to their spots, and they, periodically go back there throughout the day. They won't have that option this year, given the camp guidelines. So that room is going to be used for our isolation area. It has a bathroom, so we have an isolation bathroom. It will be used by staff unless someone is ill, and then we'll close that specifically for the isolation for someone that's ill to use. But like I said, so the camp drop-off will be 3 to 4. We normally have before and after care. We've canceled those programs given the requirement of staff being with the kids all day. We felt that 8 hours was enough. So asking them to work 12 or 13 hours a day would be too much. And we also decided not to bring in, we usually our grades are incoming kindergartners to incoming 6th graders. So if you're about to enter kindergarten, generally children were allowed to come to Camp T. This year, we're not going to open it to incoming kindergartners. And speaking with my staff, they felt it was hard enough to explain what it's like to be a kid in a classroom setting. We didn't want to have to add all these COVID-19 things to that for them, and felt, of course, the social distancing and the masks would make it really hard to, make sure that those guys are abiding by it. So we're not going to allow incoming kindergartners this year. We got rid of our CIT program. They're considered campers, so we wanted to make sure we had enough space for kids that needed the childcare this year. I mean, we know we're really important for the reopening of the state, and parents really need the somewhere to go. I think I have a child that goes there. I'm looking forward to sending him, even though I'll be there with other people. But so there's many other sort of policies that I've written and I gave to Jim. I probably gave it to him like 30 minutes before this meeting started, so I know he hasn't looked at it. But I guess if you have any questions, I'm sure there's things I've missed, but that's kind of what camp would look like for the day, as opposed to what it normally looks like. Okay.
John, can you just tell me, how many kids do you normally get in the summer, and how many are you expecting this year, or how many you are going to allow this year?
Yeah, so this normally we have a capacity around 180, where we operate between 150 and that number every week. With the 10 groups of 10, we're going to limit our capacity to 100. I was giving Kevin the numbers. I think, were you there today, Louise? I
was not.
I think I saw you there, maybe not. But I went over the numbers of current registrants and waitlist numbers for, we only had 1 week over 100. I'm still waiting to roll out this program. Like, I know a lot of parents don't know what camp's going to look like yet. I've reserved that until I completely understood exactly what it was going to look like to tell them, because I didn't want to have something and then have it change. Since I've had the guidelines on Monday, we've had, tons of meetings with other groups and camp groups and recreation departments trying to really dig through this thing and see what it really means. And I've met with Jim by phone call and in person. He's been great about helping me sort of understand what we're looking at here and how to write up these policies for you guys to see and approve. But so our capacity will be 100 this year. Long story short.
Yeah, thank you. Jim, do you want to comment on what John has said, please?
Sure. So the guidelines came out about, today's the 9th, maybe about 8 days ago, the governor released them in anticipation of the phase 2 opening, and then when the opening came, they were quickly revised to change a couple of things, taking of temperatures and the residency requirement, which still hasn't been changed in the document yet. That should be changed pretty soon, has been removed from that guidance document. It's a fairly large document because it's designed to handle all kinds of child care situations. The summer camp portion of it's just a small portion. Camps have to follow the regular camping regulations that they always would do. And in a normal year, once they've determined compliance, I issue a license for the board for them to operate. Camp T certainly hasn't had a problem in the past meeting those requirements, and they've been good to work with. So we got a little bit of a challenge trying to figure out how to adapt the camp to the guidelines that the state have put out to take into account those public health messages that we're telling everyone about distancing and keep staying home when you're sick and the masks. So I will look at those with John. I guess from my perspective, I'm looking for what the board's comfort level is. I'm sure they can come up with policies and procedures. I know the facility that they're working at, there certainly is plenty of space to be able to put the kids socially distanced in the facility. So I guess I'm really looking to see what the board's thoughts are on that.
Jim, can you talk about, I have a question for you, Jim, about the temperature taking. Is that something that's seen as not required anymore? Did I hear that?
Yeah, so what we were told on, I think it was Monday's conference call, the days are running into each other there, that the state looked at temperature taking and they had some concerns with both the reliability of thermometers that may be used out there, and then the reliability is that is a good indicator to make decisions on illnesses in children. And they felt that it wasn't strong enough, given the range of ways kids may present with an illness, to make it a requirement. So all of these guidelines are balances between making a program so cumbersome that you can't operate it, and providing the proper public health guidance to operations. So again, the important pieces here is kind of stressing to parents: stay home if you're sick, keep the kid home if you're sick, and then making sure you can do those distancings and those mask wearing components while you're at the campgrounds. So I think partially that the amount of effort that the temperature taking may have caused for some camps was probably outweighing the value the state felt that it might have had originally.
Okay. And so, John, did you say that if someone starts showing signs of sickness during the day, they will be, is it on the stage in the cafeteria? Is that where they go? Or no, the staff room?
Yeah, so we have to designate an isolation area that, upon any symptoms of a child or staff member, we immediately isolate them. And there's a procedure for how to handle that once they've been isolated, and also sanitizing. And we've been working with our healthcare consultant. She's Dr. Amy Kritzer from Groton. She's a pediatrician who's our healthcare consultant. And, we've been asking her, and I've been talking to Jim as well about, what designates something that is required to send them home. How do we determine that? Someone's got a cough, the first thing we got to do is look at their medical history and records that's submitted, and make sure if they have an allergy, that's something that we just monitor and give them an opportunity to, show that it's not something that's, obviously COVID-19. We're lucky enough to have a nurse this year, a registered nurse who's had some work. She had worked at the Boston Children's Hospital and seen some of these symptoms in real life and understands how they look. So between her and our healthcare consultant, Amy, we've had we started to come up with, we haven't had that. It's not completely, sorry, my dog, completely in writing yet about how it's going to look as far as what we're looking for. And I'm working with those two to come up with those plans to re-release them back to to their groups. Obviously kids have stomach aches and headaches and overheated and I don't know how it looks like in the world now, but in more times than not, that's usually probably not going to be COVID-19. So we're going to have a policy written of how we're going to act on each sort of case by case scenario. We're going to let common sense sort of prevail in most of those cases, and but any chance of someone with the symptom, we're going to isolate until we can determine that it's not COVID, and then bring them back out or send them home if it is something that's more worry.
So does that mean if a child in a group of 10 shows symptoms during the day, will you isolate the whole group? Because they've all been in contact with each other?
No, not until it's been determined that they are definitely a COVID-19 person. And in the guidelines, it says a positive result or, fully symptomatic, having, more, all of the symptoms or most of the symptoms, that you can almost conclude that it's a COVID-19. And that's something that we can have like a professional opinion. Like, Jim and I talked about that as they go to their pediatrician that day and they're seen, and that can determine that it's more than likely COVID-19 for this person without a test. And once we've gotten that official word from somewhere else, and then there's another procedure to follow as far as, what to do with anybody that's been exposed to the person that has now had a positive result, or more than likely a positive result.
Okay.
I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. You did.
So one of the good things is they'll have a nurse on site. So certainly somebody with a little bit more medical background than, the most camps run with a health supervisor who's generally first aid and CPR trained. So that's a good sign, because they're going to keep not only the kids separate, hopefully, and keep the groups of kids separate. It should minimize the chance for spread. So if we're socially distancing the kids in the group and one kid comes down with it, it should minimize risk for that entire group. And again, if and hopefully not, a child tests positive, then we'll be able to do the contact tracing a little quicker, because we'll know the group the kid's in and all the kids that are in that group.
Yeah, one of the things I should have mentioned is that, our plan includes, the groups, the cohorts, they're called, and some of the references is they're never mingling with other groups. They're not even walking through the hallway at the same time. If they are, they're all moving in one direction, out the door to go to the fields, or, we talked about playground use, as, Jim and I have been talking about, is if we sanitize in the morning to the CDC specifications, we can use the playground, and this in between uses, we'll sanitize the playground and, wipe down the hard surfaces and let it dry. I know being out in the sun, that the playground is something that is, the UV rays is a helpful agent in helping, making the spread on hard surfaces, etc. Any shared materials will be sanitized if they're between the groups. Most of the things will be shared amongst the group, and we're also asking for the kids to bring their own things that they won't share at all. So we're going to really minimize the shared materials, but we will sanitize those materials as needed. More than likely at the end of the day than in between uses amongst the group. If there's like a soccer ball that's being used for sports and we only have a few of them, then we'll sanitize all the soccer balls between groups using them. So we do have a plan for that as well.
Okay, does anyone else have questions or comments for John?
John, just out of curiosity, this is Mike Zeldin. I want to speak on defense of the virus, if you don't mind. Sure. Okay. He would like to know, the virus would like to know, have you know of any camp where the age cohorts that you have in mind for this one, where they have followed any of the guidelines and have been in session for longer than 4 weeks, and have been successful at preventing the virus from, shall we say, either infecting or initiating spread. In other words, do you have any camp that has been referred to you where they have followed guidelines, whether or not they're from Massachusetts or otherwise, they've been successful?
No, camps in Massachusetts at the very least are only allowed to open in phase 2, which just happened on Monday. I do know of the Hopkinton Family Center that's been operating under the the emergency early education. They're like an emergency child daycare facility. They have been operating with a lot of these even more strict guidelines, more of a phase 1, even during quarantine guidelines. And they have not had any issue with any outbreaks. I know that. I believe they've been in session throughout. I don't think they ever shut down, from what I understand, but I can get that information for you.
Yeah, I don't need to be satisfied, since I'm just looking at it from the point of view of giving parents, as well as the kids who do understand what's going on, some degree of confidence, because it's my understanding that it was the camp area, along with restaurants, that the advisory board to the governor had the most problems. This is because the kids are involved, and how do you manage all of that? This is not the most popular activity viewed by the experts. They're not exactly in consensus. Jim, I was just wondering, well, maybe both of you know the answer, but in the area where they were doing emergency care, and also care for kids for parents who are frontline workers, did they ever reach a density of the type that you're talking about for the camp?
I don't know the answer to that question, Mike, but that's interesting. There was a bunch of emergency childcare open during this period of time when everything else, from essentially March, the middle of March on, and I don't know how that fared. I can certainly ask around and see if there's any information on how that. I'm not sure what they allowed them for density in that, so I'm not sure what those numbers were. So I can certainly look into it.
Yeah, I know that was an area of consternation. And the other question I have, you mentioned that you're gonna have tents outside. I really like the outdoors better for the kids than being inside those rooms, especially Shaker Lane, which has issues. I take it you're not going to be running the AC, or will you? Or is there even an AC in that building? I forgot.
There's actually air conditioning in the cafeteria. One of the 4 classrooms we have will have air conditioning. It's an individual sort of wall unit. The air conditioning in the cafeteria is its own unit as well. It's actually, I don't know if it was something they've added, but it's something that we didn't have until this year for air conditioning in that room. So our plan is to run the air conditioning. Coolness is something that, we do look for, especially in the nurses station. If a kid needs to come just to cool down for a few minutes, it'd be nice. It's nice to have them. Traditionally, we've had a cool down area. I know this is obviously different with COVID-19 and circulating air, but the area that we had before was the library. That's air conditioned as well. Sure. We're not going to have access to the library this year, but that was like a cool down area for our kids to get a minute to be in cooled, refrigerated air for a moment. But do you plan? I mean, this is contrary, probably not intuitive, but do you plan to have the windows open and fans to keep the air moving while the kids are in there, or is this? Jim, do you want to chime in and talk about the lack of wisdom of having fans and windows open?
Well, I haven't seen enough studies to know, because I got asked this question earlier today about a town meeting hall and whether the unit ventilators would be good or bad for. And so obviously we hear them talk about being outside and fresh air and the movement of air, but I guess it depends on the movement of air and who you're proximate to and who may be sick. So, John, I don't know if the kids are going to get outdoor time at all. Yes. I know the classrooms do have windows, so fresh air can come in. I think probably the big thing, Mike, is that they stay distant and that they really work to keep them staying distant and wearing their masks when they're not.
Yeah, that's tough enough for some adults. So.
I know. I tell anyone who's operating a campus that you guys have to figure out how to turn it into a game or an activity so that the kids will want to do it.
Good.
Yeah, yeah, there'll be a lot of outdoor time. The kids, we have the Ken White Field, which is the Shaker Lane Field is the ball field you're looking at the entrance to the left of the school in the back, and then all the way in the direct back behind the playground structure is a large field. We plan on spending lots of time outdoors for activities as much as we can. Obviously on the really hot days, we're going to try to stay in the shade more. On the really, on rainy days, we can't be out there either. But, we are taking into consideration that like a really, really rainy day that we cancel the outdoor group kids, just to not be in like sloshy, muddy fields on those. But we haven't come to a conclusion on how we're going to handle that. And yeah, there'll be outdoor time. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I mean, I'm going to. I'm focused on the outdoors, and I just should leave it at this point because we could go, pardon the pun, into the weeds. So if you had to, in other words, if someone came along and said, "Oh, you can't do anything indoors at all. Everything has to be outdoors," and you had to put up tents with floors. I'm just making this up as we go along. How many kids do you think you could accommodate if you had the tent space?
So we did look into. We thought maybe the schools weren't going to let us in, right? We sort of been bouncing around tons of ideas of how do we bring something, something as important as getting your child taken care of while you return to work. And we did look into that. We could operate a camp of 100 outside, 10 tents. They would be spread out throughout the fields out there. Mm-hmm. We have looked at that. It's very expensive. It's about $30,000 for the tent all these areas and bring electricity and water out there and hand wash stations and bathroom porta potty rental, generator rental. Running electricity from the school isn't the most ideal thing. It's quite a ways, so we're not asking for a lot of electricity for that, but we do need some. We would like to have the fans out there to keep kids cool on the really hot days, and we are going to use one shared computer that the staff would have access to run Zoom games or activities. Our activity options are very limited with the physical distancing. We've been working on.
I got it. The other question is that you anticipate, this is the final one I've got, you anticipate that during the course of the camp season this year, many of the parents will be returning to work, okay, over which you have no control. In other words, where and how and what they're doing. And the other aspect is you have no idea who's at home, whether or not they're the old uncle, aunt, or whatever, okay, at home. You have no idea.
Yeah, we don't know who it's going to be. And we know.
I got you. It's totally.
Yeah.
So you're working with a lot of unknowns, including limited experience and being kind with knowing you can operate this way in the first place. And I sure hope you can pull it off. Thanks a lot for your effort. Really do. It's tough. I think I'm glad you had Jim to work with. At least he could hit you over the head a number of times.
Me too. He's been great.
John, I have another question for you. Typically, or historically, you bring the kids down to the lake for swimming. Will that happen or not?
Yeah, per the guidelines, no public watering holes, swimming pools can be used where there's like the general public has access to. So we are not swimming this year, unfortunately.
Will there be some other slip and slide or some water type activity or not? Or
we'll be using any slip and slides. We're looking into doing like a spray parky kind of thing with some PVC piping that kids can walk through and cool down. Some things that they can have water. You can't use like sand tables or water tables to play in like you would see at like a school or preschool setting. None of those things where kids can put their hands into and use together. So those things aren't allowed per the guidelines as well.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments or questions for John?
Hey, John, how many days the camp will last with 100 kids?
So 35 total days, 7 5-day weeks is the June 29th to August 14th is the sessions we're looking at operating this year.
And you start in the morning, what time, 8 o'clock?
Yes, sir. 8 a.m. would drop off start.
And then 3:30 they go home.
Between 3 and 4 will be pickup.
Well, I have no doubt that you will take care of it and do the best you can. You have a nurse, which I'm very proud of you guys. Okay, forget about the tent. We'll put Mike in the tent. All right? Now, $30,000 a lot of money. We don't have that. Do the best you can. Make sure that the nurse is available. Anything happen to it, one child or several, I'm sure you will take care of it. We have trust in you. Okay, you take care and God bless you.
Thank you. One more thing to mention is that we did also hire a camp custodian to help with sanitizing. That's
Beautiful.
something we've never had before. So I just want you guys to know that as well. That's something I hadn't mentioned.
Yeah.
And will he sanitize with the electrostatic sprayer or?
We're working with the school department on access to. We're not able to get one at this moment. They're like way back ordered. Chief Wodzinski is borrowing one from another department in town that they're using to do the ambulances with. He's expecting his before they ordered one before the end of the month. So that electrostatic sprayer may actually be something we're actually able to use. But, we've been talking with Jim about, different methods of sanitizing, and we've been working together as far as making a plan for that as well. So if we don't have that.
Water all over the place.
Excellent. Any other questions for John? Kevin?
I just wanted to applaud you for, being so diligent and going through the guidance and, dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's and making sure that everything's going to be in compliance and going above and beyond and being a great leader, as you have been in the past. And it's a added layer of complication this year. And I have all the faith in the world that you'll be able to get it done. My only comment is that I know they rolled back the mandated temperature taking. You do have the infrared thermometers and you do have the nurse and you're doing the staggered drop off. I don't think that it's a lot of heavy lifting to get that done, to do that as a precaution and just to make sure, give everybody that sort of extra sense of security.
Right.
And maybe it's added value, for parents that are dropping kids off. Maybe they're on the fence, but, you're going to do that? Okay, yeah, sure. We'll sign them up. That's my only comment because Acton's doing it. And, I think that it's important.
Thank you.
Mike?
Yeah, I just want, I'm not trying to be totally negative, or just curious if you've given it thought. And that is, what are you going to use as your metric? Maybe Jim has already advised you on this, that suggests to you that the virus is basically what would make you bring the camp session closed? In other words, what would trigger your decision that in spite of your very best efforts and diligence to meet all the advisories and regulations, advisories and guidance, because none of these are required, what would prompt you to basically say, this just isn't working?
Unable to execute the plan. We have a plan.
But how do you know you're not executing the plan? What's your measurement?
Well, you can see if the kids aren't able to keep masks on when they're supposed to have masks. Their social distancing as being a huge importance of inability to coordinate the groups so that they're not ever intermingling. Obviously, if we have the communicable diseases plan that we've always had, it's no more prevalent than this year to use that same policy. If there is something that starts to happen, then we have a policy in place for once something does take place, and even more of a stringent policy this year with the guidelines we've been given. So that would be the obvious metric for saying it's not working. But we have a plan. We we have amazing staff. Our staff is our hugest. I always say that's what makes Camp T. They're amazing people that many of which are in the childcare industry and are teachers already or working to be a teacher. One of the things that we did decide not to do is have any under 18 staff this year. So, we wanted to make sure we had, very experienced staff. We have a built-in alternate system this year with if something happens with a staff member that can't be there. I think we have a very good plan. I think with the guidelines in place, I believe that we will have a good camp season and we'll be able to do this. I really do.
Okay. So this is it. Suppose someone very qualified, teacher, first rate, the individual is 65 years old, shows up your front door and says, and you're short of folks. Would you hire someone that age to work on this camp setting?
Probably not. We do have 30 camp staff currently on.
No, I'm assuming here, I'm giving you a theoretical.
Yeah, no, I would probably say no.
Why would you do that?
That's discriminatory, John.
Just a higher risk.
Oh, really? So in other words, it's too high a risk.
Okay, Mike, let's not get him.
You answer the question.
I have some questions and comments
Thanks.
that I'd like to get.
Go
ahead, Lisa.
Okay. So yeah, I read the guidelines, I guess, before there were some changes. So I have some questions that you've already answered. One of the questions that I had was about the isolation of the sick or symptomatic camper until the parents picked up, but you've already figured that out. The other thing was the temperature taking. Without air conditioning and with the kids running around in the summer, their temps can go up higher probably than the 100%, 100 degrees that the state was recommending. So is there going to be, and you don't have to answer this, just say yes, will there be a policy for retakes? Like they'll go to the nurse, get their temperature taken, go to the cool down room or get some water or rest, that kind of thing. The other thing too, with the guidelines said that the staff was going to be trained to actively monitor children throughout the day for symptoms. Is that going to be your counselors, or is that going to be, the nurse? Is he or she going to go around and watch for symptoms or, keep an eye on kids? And the last thing I wanted to know was Shaker Lane's been closed down for 3 months now. Is there some kind of startup procedure since it's been closed, the plumbing, the ventilation? Does that kind of stuff need to be inspected or updated or filters changed? Or my office has been closed for 3 months and they have to run water lines and check the air conditioning and all kinds of stuff. So those are my comments and questions. So.
All right. Sorry, my son walked in the middle of that. I'll go in reverse order. The building itself, I know the staff custodians have been there every day pretty much. I've been talking to Steve Mark about that. So I don't think there's an issue with reopening. They've been in there making modifications already for preparation.
They never turned off water or power or anything like that?
Not that I am aware of. I'll double check that with Steve at the school department and Bill Maher. Actually, I'm meeting Bill Maher over there, the facilities manager for the town of Littleton, at 8:30 a.m. to go through all the classrooms, and that'll be a question I'll make sure I'll ask him as well. The question about the possible raised temperature for someone that's overheated, that would be something that we would address as like a per child, per camper basis. We're going to use the guideline of isolate first and then give them an opportunity for the temperature to come down to a normal thing without any medications or such. We're not allowed to give out medications like Tylenol and for a child anyway, but we would give that. That would be our common sense, our professional with our registered nurse being able to use her judgment in bringing that child an opportunity to cool down, and being exposed and seeing kids having worked in it months ago as far as when it first came out. She has some experience, and we have our healthcare consultant to talk to get that sort of, we can have many places to go to bounce around, what to do with every single case, to get professional opinions with our pediatrician and our registered nurse. So the other thing was the staff would be trained. They would be, one of the things it says is to do not only self-checks throughout the day, but to check on their kids. They're only going to be with 10 kids. It's an easy ask. It's usually pretty obvious if one of the kids has a symptom. I find that most of them are trying to tough out the day. They're usually quick to complain about any issue. So,
Usually when you have a fever that high, you're not feeling so great anyway. So you might notice that.
Right. Well, I'm just saying with the other symptoms, abdominal, gastrointestinal pains, or, those things are kind of easy to sort of monitor. So we're not trying to have the nurse or anybody outside the group visit the groups unless they're, we would like them to be sent to the nurse rather than the having many different groups going to many different areas. We're trying to keep, the 12 the groups of 10 to 12 in their groups unless otherwise have to be exposed to another person or part of the building. Did I get all of them? I'm sorry if I didn't. Okay.
Okay, any other questions from the board?
John,
So,
a great experience, leading up to the potential reopening of school. You can definitely give them some insight on, what works, what doesn't work, how to keep the kids apart at that age, especially the younger kids. So
definitely.
Consultation agreement ready.
Yes, absolutely. I'm ready.
okay, so I guess we'll open it up for comments or questions from the other people, the public. Brian, do you see any hands raised?
Madam Chair, I do not see any hands raised.
Okay. Jim, do you have any last statements?
No, I certainly appreciate Mike's comment, and there is it built into the guidelines. They talk about staff members who are over 65, may want to reconsider, if there's a case testing positive or somebody with symptoms staying home. So they kind of have an eye to that, but unfortunately, all of these guidances are based on, kind of balances between trying to run a program because kids need to be someplace so their parents can be at work, and the public health ideals. So I think it's going to be really important. And again, having the way the Camp T is going to break down the groups, having older staff members, probably one of the important things to do as John and I go through his plan is, to make sure the staff can recognize those symptoms, because they'll be the first person who'll see the kids. So they'll be the person who'll see the kids most during the day. And if they sense anything, make sure the nurse gets involved sooner than later.
And what happens if there's a large breakout and would you just...
I hope it's not, because to me, if you're asking what might shut something down, that would be something certainly that would shut it down. And we'd have to, because obviously then it would be, I guess the kids probably would fare well if they get a case of it, but as John and I have spoken, those kids all go to homes. They all kind of intermingle with other people. We don't know what the health status of the people in their homes are. So, if there's ever a reason to do the job the best you possibly can at that school is because those kids go home to, grandparents and people with immunocompromised situations. And so that's the reason to make sure that gets done really well at the campsite.
Yeah, Jim, I think that between Memorial Day and the demonstrations and camps starting and work phase 2, people going back to work, what do you think? Do you think there's going to be more cases showing up? I know Mike does.
Well, it's certainly the protest. If you look at the protests, just the vigorousness with which people speak when they're protesting, and the fact that not everyone's wearing masks, that makes me a little nervous. Hopefully, the reopening part of it, the way they're kind of staggering the reopening, with like office space having, having occupancy limits to start with. Hopefully that, in conjunction with the fact that nobody wants to go back to kind of severe restrictions, is enough to keep people in mind, the public health components in mind. The good thing about the camp, as we talked about the beach, it's going to be a managed activity. And again, I'm sure John will notice right away what works, what doesn't work, and they'll adapt to make sure they can get it to work.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it really sounds like he's doing that already, so sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay, so Jim, what do we need to do? Do we need to make a motion, or will you just sign off on the permit, or?
Well, so I guess I need to take a temperature of the board. I don't know if you want to, you have a meeting, so today's the 9th. We could, and were we doing a COVID meeting on the 17th? Is that my recollection?
Not this Wednesday, but the following.
Right, no COVID
So
this
that-
week, it'll be next Wednesday.
The 17th. So it would be nice, just so John can kind of plan what's going to happen, if we could, the board could give him some direction that, yes, the board's comfortable with us issuing that license. Hopefully he and I can have enough time to talk and review plans before then, so we can probably provide you with a better report of where we're at.
So should we wait till the next meeting?
That's entirely up to you. I'm trying to. You need to feel comfortable with it, you as a board. I feel comfortable that I can get to the point with John that he meets those regulations. Because if not, I can't give him a license. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess for me personally, with all the things that need to take place between now and the 29th, is knowing if you guys are leaning towards something that you wouldn't grant us a license to operate. If we did know that now, it would, we're starting to bring in the staff to, they have to be all drug tested per town of Littleton. We have to set that up. That incurs a big cost to the town to do 30 tests. We have to start training. There's all sorts of dominoes to fall, and I definitely don't want you to rush to judgment. I'm not asking for that at all. I'm just saying that if, Jim and I spoke about this. If you are feeling comfortable that given what we've had for the guidelines, as long as we're able to operate within those guidelines and to operate with the already guidelines that we already operate under, would you feel comfortable granting us, at a later date, that license at that time? But, if you're feeling like don't have camp this year, then, it would be good to hear that today rather than as we're getting really, really close. A lot of parents are emailing us every single day asking if we're running. They're looking for guidelines. They're looking for information. People are signing up for the wait list every day. I would like to be able to tell them, yes, there's going to be something, or no, there won't. But like I said, again, I definitely don't want to rush to judgment or rush you for any of this stuff. So however you feel comfortable is how I'll feel comfortable. But, with the many things to do, I would like to know if you're in that one direction or the other at this point.
Okay. Does someone want to make a motion then?
Well, I don't know. Do we need to make a motion, except that as long as everything stays status quo and there's not too many changes, I would feel comfortable letting Jim sign off on a license for Camp T to start. I don't know. Does it need to be a motion?
I'm pretty sure we're going to have to vote on it.
This is Mike. Jim, I have the impression that from your comments that you haven't had a chance, that although you've worked very closely to get this plan in shape, that there's still some elements you want to make sure are solid. Is that the right impression?
Given how, I reviewed the guidelines from the state this past weekend, and John and I talked on Monday, and here we are Tuesday.
Yeah.
And he sent me that his updated completed plan, shortly before our meeting started. Yeah, I'd like to have some. They're looking at the 29th for opening. I'd like to be able to look at the guidelines that he's put together. So.
Yeah, I'm looking for some, shall we say, experienced eyes on the guidelines to pick up stuff. And I think even stuff that isn't in the guidelines that Jim could pass on, that would make management anticipating the, shall we say, the unanticipated, as it were.
Yes.
Because you're literally doing a landing on the moon without, with lousy photographs. So I'm suggesting that we don't try to take a motion tonight, that we ask Jim to sit down and go over the plan and, shall we say, tweak it and bring it up to the high standard that we expect for that camp. And I think that what everyone involved with that camp and its operation would like to see in the first place. So it's not a negative. It's more, making sure we have it nailed as much as we can have it nailed.
Okay, Kevin?
I guess my question is, I know John has a lot to do, and I guess, is there anyone here that thinks that, if Jim green lights this thing, that they would be opposed to camp running? I just wanted to kind of take a straw poll, just so like John can kind of get a handle on everything else he has to do in the meantime, because there's so many moving parts.
The moving part for me is that we're going talking about the phase 2. And so far, because this virus is crazy and requires 4 to 5, if not 7 days to incubate. So even though the numbers look very nice in the state, they're still lagging. They're lagged out.
Well, I didn't realize we had 27 cases in town now above the nursing home.
No, it's not in town that I'm concerned about. It's the movement of the population. The fact that we're seeing more, not just more traffic here, but I don't want to go into details. It's just, I think Jim has a good sense, and I think he's conveyed it to us. and I think the effort here that's already put in to bring in compliance and guideline can't help but benefit from the two of them sitting down and really, as it were, making sure not only the T's and the I's were, but making sure the A's and the X's are in place.
Okay, I agree with Kevin. I think we could maybe kind of take a vote, an informal.
It's like,
I don't know.
blink once.
Okay, can I make a motion? I'll tell you why. If Jim is going to be content and happy with John, whatever guideline he's going to give him, so we give him the motion now and allow him, so he doesn't have to come back. John has got a lot of things to take care of it. Why postpone it to the 17th? Let's do it now. If Jim is happy, the motion will stay on. I make the motion to make sure that Jim is happy first, so the motion will carry for Jim to be satisfied. And if he's not satisfied, Jim, the motion will be void.
Madam Chair, we do have a hand raised.
Okay, who is that?
It is John Baboval.
Okay. John, would you like to give a question or a comment?
Yes, I do, if you don't mind. Thank you. I thought you'd be interested in hearing the perspective of a parent who's planning on sending their child to Camp T this summer. My wife and I both work, so the childcare aspect is extremely important to us, and we need to be able to have plans in place. So the sooner we can know something for sure, that would be extremely helpful. And then the other thing I'd like to mention is that there's been a lot of public health discussion about COVID-19, but there's more to public health for children than just the virus. The mental health of children from being isolated and, unable to be in a social situation all summer is also extremely important. And there is a lot of concern, and I know I have concern for my son about the developmental effects of keeping them indoors. So if we can trust that they can run Camp T safely, and I have full faith that they can, I think it's important to get the kids back out there. That's all.
Thanks, John.
Good to hear that King Arthur will be back. His son Arthur is a very favorite of the staff at Camp T.
We had to send him to bed. He was very interested in this meeting.
Tell him we said hi, please.
Why? I'm in agreement too with Gino, Kevin, Mike. If Jim thinks that, again, if there's not too much variation from the plan,
Right.
and then what John has already proposed, I think that we can leave it up to Jim to make that decision.
Yeah,
I think that, oh, go ahead, Kevin, sorry.
I would just like to add that, the temperature taking at drop off, I think it's important, just to get a benchmark and where we're at.
If you guys want us to do that, we can definitely do that, Kevin.
I appreciate that.
So do we have a second or not?
I think we have to wait to take an official vote until the 17th, but you can, John, it sounds like you can see or hear how the board is feeling. I'm in agreement that I think you've done a lot of research and you have an excellent plan. I mean, who knows what we're dealing with. It's everybody's first time trying to work with this, so.
But if Jim, excuse me, Madam Chairman, if Jim agree with John, why wait until the 17th? Doesn't make any sense. We make the motion, second it, and Jimmy will make the decision. Very simple. Something happened, he put a void on the motion. Parents, they are trying to make arrangement for the kids. You heard it, gentlemen.
I just feel we have a responsibility to the town, and Jim has indicated that he has not had a chance to match up his professional assessment of the guidelines with the attempt made, however successful, by the director, by someone who's been immersed in it. And I think that the fresh pair of eyes that in this case Jim brings to it. I'd like to hear from Jim. He doesn't have to show up at our meeting. He just needs to communicate an email or a text that says, I've looked it over. I've made some additions to improve on it.
That's right.
And we could vote formally to say, okay, it's been reviewed and that's it. Or he might say, there are a couple of things I'd like you guys to weigh in on before we do this. Because I don't know, and no one here knows until Jim's had a chance to look at it, what he's going to find or not find. And what's going to be happening in the next 4 or 5 days as the schedule set up by the state for these phases is somewhat, shall we say, I wouldn't call it wishful thinking, but a lot of it is magical. So, I don't think it hurts us to wait till the 17th to get it, or before that, if Jim has a chance to do the job, to come back and say, I've done it and it looks fine. I've added X, Y, or Z, or I haven't. And it's over in 1 minute.
I just some logistical challenges, and I'm going to go ahead and second Gino's motion, just as long as Mr. Griffey is able to review John's plan and stay with it, either as it stands or needs to make adjustments so that it's acceptable from a public health standpoint, as long as the temperature taking on drop off is in there. I guess I just added to Gino's motion, but seconded at the same time. So.
Okay. I guess we'll take a roll call vote then. I feel like we should wait. I feel like we should.
We're kind of putting it on Jim. So it's all, as fast as he can do it, or is.
That's right.
We're going to do that anyway. So it's,
yeah. Okay.
Why hold up the whole thing?
Right.
And cause more uncertainty for something that's probably going to end up right where we are anyway in a week.
Jim, okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. So then I guess we'll just go through and do the vote then. So, Gino?
Gino, yes.
Kevin?
Baker, yes.
Lisa?
Lisa Flanagan, yes.
Mike?
Mike Zeldin, no.
Louise Nichols, yes. Okay. Thanks a lot, John. You did an excellent job.
Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Take it easy, John.
All right.
Louise, can I say something real quick?
Sure, John.
Our meeting today,
Sorry?
From our meeting today, we were talking about opening, Castle in the Trees and things like that, and how if it's not policed, then we're going to have a situation kind of like we did at the beach when it wasn't policed, kind of like a free-for-all. There's no staff to police Castle in the Trees, and so we're also on the same page to just like keep the parking lot closed and not allow people there for public health reasons. But at the same time, Tim had mentioned like, well, we don't want to send mixed signals because, Parks and Rec controls jet field. But I guess it's the school that controls alumni. And there have been many reports of different, pickup games and just like kids going down there unsupervised, utilizing like the weight room and stuff like that unsupervised. So I don't know if there's someone we should contact at the school system just to make sure someone's like policing it, to make sure everybody's being safe and socially distant. But I just wanted to report back to you on that, because there were comments made and it pertains to the Board of Health. So I don't know who's in charge of alumni, but maybe somebody can make a call.
Okay.
I can certainly talk to the school department about that.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, so before we review the minutes, I see Nina is here, and she is here because we want to talk about taking temperatures for town meeting. Hi, Nina.
Hi, everyone.
So what was your concern, Nina?
No concern. Just was following up the Board of Health, as I'm sure you know and recall, voted to request or recommend that, admittedly, I can't remember if it was request, recommend, otherwise, that masks be worn and temperatures be taken at town meeting. And that was whether it was indoors or outdoors. Obviously, we have an outdoor platform. Weather's looking pretty good right now, almost a little too hot. So anyone watching this, we'd recommend water, sunscreen, hats, anything to keep yourself cool. But as far as the temperature is concerned, in the event that there is somebody whose temperature does register at a rate that's 100.4 or greater, we have checked with town council, and we may or may not be able to deny them access. And so we would designate an area to locate anybody who either refuses a temperature check or who wishes to still enter given a temperature greater than a certain amount. And Jim, I don't know if you have any suggestions or comments on that. I've left it to the police chief, fire chief, town clerk, and town moderator to identify a location for that that's sufficiently distant from others who have passed the temperature check.
I mean, if it's going to be a warm day, depending when people get there and what they were doing beforehand, again, just as we were talking about the variability with kids, you might get that with adults. I guess I'd need to see what you thought you'd do with people who had a temperature. So how firm an answer was it from council about what you can do with people in that regard?
Great question. The answer was you can, but it's not a slam dunk.
Okay. So, and obviously with somebody's civic, citizenship rights and civic rights and stuff like that, you really want to be careful on how you do that. So, I mean, my thought is in other towns, they've put areas or set up areas for people who won't wear masks so that they can still participate, but are away from the other folks. Whether you had that set up such that you could do that with these folks, given the variability, I mean, you can see the state came out with changing the requirements for camp. Again, we're having these conversations with town halls about their reopening plans and whether temperature taking is appropriate. It's not required by the guidelines. I think there's enough question about the value of that you should probably lean on the side of accommodations, but make sure we can keep all those other public health controls in place, the distancing and the mask wearing that you can do that. And again, hope for people to be reasonable when they get there.
Thank you.
Quiet's not good.
Sorry, I was unmuting, Jim.
Okay. So I guess, Neil, I would like to see what the plan was, how you plan to move them, where you plan to put them. Because, again, it's not only that person that you're worried about, it's everybody else in the facility. So that I want people to feel as comfortable as possible being at an event like that.
Sure. Jim, are you planning to attend tomorrow at 1 p.m.?
I am.
Excellent. Then we'll discuss further then.
Okay, great. That sounds great.
I'm glad that Nina was here tonight because that was part of the minutes for the the May 6th meeting that I wanted to follow up with because we talked about temps, we talked about a non-mask wearing section, and then I think we talked about ordering masks if people didn't have them. Did we order any, or are we just going to rely on people to bring their own?
We are definitely relying and encouraging people to bring their own. We will have a limited supply available for anyone who, you know, I know I've left my car before and then had to turn around and go back to my car to get my mask because I've, for a split second, forgot we're in a pandemic. And then, so I know those things happen. So we'll have a limited supply.
It's like the reusable grocery bags that we can't use anymore. I forgot that. Yeah.
Okay. Did that answer your question, Lisa?
No, this was just, I'm glad that we are following back up on this. What is going to be 6 feet apart, the chairs on the field? Mm-hmm.
Yes, that is correct.
Awesome.
There's a limited number of chairs. There's 50 chairs for the hearing impaired, and then there's 250 chairs for, you know, others, the public to sit. And once we run out of chairs, the chairs are special chairs to prevent from damage on the field. There may have to be people standing. Hopefully we don't run into that type of scenario, but obviously we don't want to discourage participation either.
Okay.
Okay. They can't bring their own. What about a blanket? Sit on a blanket?
I suppose it probably will get very hot. From the experience that staff had last week in visiting the field and doing a quick technology walkthrough, the field got very hot to the point where it was indicated that, you know, if you didn't have shoes on, it would be very, very hot for your foot, for instance. So, you know, I think it would be ideal if Littleton continues to do what it has historically done, which is be well informed and be prepared for town meeting. And the limitation for questions is brought down from 4 minutes down to 2 minutes. So hopefully we can move things along and, you know, have a good town meeting with not having it be drawn out. Again, I'm not trying to discourage questions. I think people should certainly be able to ask their questions and get those questions answered. But from the perspective of just the overall heat that could present itself that day, and just in an effort to get business completed and so that we can move on and have the fiscal year budget approved and all the other necessary appropriations. We're hoping for a pretty quick and smooth town meeting.
Yeah, what I like about the arrangement is that people are going to be actually seated apart from each other, and if they're wearing masks and they're outdoors, you're talking about if there's even a slight breeze, you're talking about a real ideal situation to reduce it's sure is better than hanging out in Shaker Lane School. Let's put it that way.
Kevin, you had a question?
Oh yeah, I was just wondering if there's going to be any like online participation at all, or is it all just going to be in person? People that don't feel comfortable going, will they have access to watch or comment or ask questions?
I don't believe we're able to air live because of the location, and unfortunately, the state laws don't provide access for virtual participation. There was legislation passed that allows virtual participation for representative town meetings, but not for open town meetings.
Okay. Anything else, Benita? All right, so we can move on and to approve the outstanding meeting minutes. Thank you, Nina.
Bye all, thanks.
Okay, so for meeting minutes dated May 12th. Everybody get a chance to read those?
I was not there, so
So you didn't.
I wasn't there, so I approved those minutes.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes as written for May 12th, 2020.
Can I have a second?
I'm trying to find them. I'm probably gonna have to abstain because I didn't read them.
Can't hear you.
I'm probably gonna have to abstain because I didn't read them. Yeah.
Gino, did you read May 12th meeting minutes?
Just do not. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was a really short one, I remember you saying, Louise.
Yeah.
If anybody,
Trying to find it. It's not the email.
Maybe we should work backwards from June to May.
Yeah, I have those at the top.
Yeah,
June?
I had to. Ah, boy.
Should we skip should we skip these? Does it?
You gotta, yeah, we should skip it because we have to catch up. They came all at
Okay.
once. That's it. We'll skip. I can put it.
How about May 3rd? Where should we start? Somebody want to give me a starting point? We have May 13th, May 22nd, May 26th, May 27th, June 1st, and June 3rd.
Let's start with June 3rd and go back.
Yeah, let's start with June 3rd. I like that idea. So meeting minutes dated for June 3rd.
Okay.
Can I get a motion?
I think I got it before.
Make a motion to approve the minutes for June 3rd.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so we'll go through the roll call for Gino.
Okay, I'm not sure if I read it, so I'm just gonna say at the moment, but I'm gonna try to read them all, but the 12 I did, but the other one, I don't know. I don't
Okay.
wanna, yes, I'd keep myself neutral.
All right, should we wait till Wednesday next week to do this? Because
Yeah,
Thank you, good idea.
It's getting late.
yeah, okay, let's do Wednesday. Everybody, read your minutes for next meeting.
Hey, I'm ready.
They just keep building up and up.
I do have a question for Janet, actually. Janet, on April 28th, I think I approved it, but there was a little change that I wanted to make in. Is it too late to change it?
No, I think I did make the change that you requested, and I thought I sent it out again.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
There was another set of minutes that Mike had to change in and another set that Kevin had to change in. And I thought I sent them all back out with the revisions.
I have a question. Is there any way to store all the minutes in like a Board of Health Google Drive or someplace? All of our data instead of scattered throughout emails?
You mean just store them?
So we can read them and access them? Just
Right.
upload a Word doc to a Google Drive and then just.
Well, they're on the website, aren't they?
Not before they're approved.
Oh.
Can Janet, Madam Chairman, can Janet give us, from the 3 all the way to the 13, and, all at once, so I can read them all instead of to look on the computer. My computer is being redone because I went to get it, at Verizon to get it on Zoom, so they cancel a lot of them. Is there any way you can do that for me, or if they can do that? Did you hear me that, Janet?
Yes, I'll send them back to you again, Gino.
Appreciate it.
That's the last time, Gino.
I know, I appreciate it, but the question is, all at once, we get it. My computer I had 2,200 emails. I went to Verizon. They say, you want to have Zoom? You got too many emails. All of them were gone. I only got about,
Get rid of the AOL, huh?
oh my God. So now I can't say yes if I don't read it. I got to make sure that I know what I'm doing.
Okay,
Otherwise, the guy's going to pick on me.
all right. Next meeting, does someone want to make a motion to adjourn, please?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, sorry.
I got to get my ice cream. You know what I mean? I'm a little kid.
Don't all rush at once. Okay, do we have a second? Okay. Gino?
Gino say yes, and I love you guys, and have a good night, and hope you have a good weekend.
Kevin?
Kevin Baker, yes.
Lisa?
Lisa Flanagan, yes.
Mike?
Mike Selden, yes.
And Louise Nichols, yes. Thanks a lot, guys, and we will see you Wednesday, whatever the.
Wednesday is the 10th, which is tomorrow.
No, not tomorrow, not tomorrow, the 17th,
No,
June 17th
tomorrow.
for our COVID meeting.
1 o'clock.
Nights. If you want to watch the Zoom candidate night, they're going to ask me to say a little, they're going to give me 3 minutes.